I'm Dutch, and let's react to the Americans. Hello, and welcome to the channel while I'm eating my microphone. My name is Johan, and I'm a typical Dutchman. And if you're planning to come over to Europe for your holidays, or maybe to live here permanently, or if you're wondering why is everything so expensive in the United States in comparison with Europe, then you are at the right channel, because in this channel I take a look at and react to videos about life and living in America versus life and living in Europe and the cost of. And for today we're going to take a look at a video from Alex on America. What Americans can learn from European work-life balance. A nice topic. I wonder what he has to say about it, because the European work-life balance is totally different than the American work and some life balance. So I'm curious what he has to say and what they can do, except for better working hours and better working conditions, benefits, as the Americans usually call them. So let's take a look at what he has to say about that and react to it when necessary, of course.
Straight into something that completely baffles Americans. Vacations. In Europe, vacation is just encouraged. It's practically mandatory. Imagine strolling up to your
not so
boss and
fast, my friend. He's rambling out.
Alright, let's dive straight into something that completely baffles Americans. Vacations. In Europe, vacation is just encouraged. It's practically mandatory. Imagine strolling.
Some more volume would be nice so I actually can understand him.
Up to your boss and casually announcing, hey, I'm gonna be out of the office for 4 or 5 weeks. Instead of panicking, their response is more like, only 5 weeks? Are you sure that's enough? Okay, maybe not that dramatic, but you get the picture. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, in the US, taking off more than a week can feel...
No. If he's suggesting that I can walk up to my boss and say, listen, next week I'll be gone for 4 weeks. He will say, well, you can try, but you won't. The only way that you actually can do this is that I suspend your job and fire you. Then you can go and, yeah. It's not that easy over here in Europe. You actually have to plan, and I did planning about, let's say, in the schooling system, in the education system that I work for in the Netherlands and also in other countries, there are mandatory vacation times because the students have mandatory vacation time. So during the vacation of the students, you as a teacher has also take your vacation time. You cannot say within a school year that, for example, now, September, you say, okay, for the next month, end of September, for the entire month of October, I'm going to take a vacation. Then your boss will look at you. We are in the middle of a school year. You cannot take a vacation right now. Besides, you already had 6 weeks of vacation 2 months ago. So you cannot. But outside the education system, a lot of companies all over Europe give you a holiday. You can give a vacation, but usually, depending on what kind of industry you're in, but at least you have to mention that you will have, that you need a vacation a month or two before that happens. And even so, there are companies that I worked also for that you have to plan this a year advance, half a year advance. As in January, you have to announce to your boss and all your other colleagues in communication with each other from when will you go and when will I go. That's how it usually works in a lot of companies all over Europe, depending on which country you live, etc. So yeah, you cannot say, oh, I'll be gone next week for 4 weeks. That won't work.
Borderline dangerous. If you dare leave your desk behind for 2 the US taking off, okay, maybe not that dramatic, but you get the picture. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, in the US, taking off more than a week can feel borderline dangerous. If you dare leave your desk behind for 2 whole weeks, you'll probably spend half your vacation anxiously checking your phone, convinced your absence has somehow set office ablaze.
Yeah. I don't know if this is also very dramatic, as he called it in, but it's not that if you leave your workplace for more than 2 weeks that you're actually checking your phone every 2 minutes if the world is burning. As I understand it, and Americans can react to it in the comments, of course, it's more that you don't get the chance to take a week or 2 weeks off because you are judged by your colleagues or your manager or your boss that how can you leave us alone for 2 weeks while we have this, I don't know what kind of a crisis, we have it very busy. And yeah, if you leave for a week, then you get a gazillion emails on your phone that you have to react to because something is burning in the office or so. I don't know how accurate this man represents the work-life balance in America. I know it's not that great as in Europe, but I guess that he's not picture it in the right way. But leave in the comments if he's right or wrong. It has more to do with the attitude than, yeah.
But why the huge gap? It's deeper than preferences. It comes down to historical policy differences. Europeans historically prioritize workers' rights and rest as essential to health and productivity, leading to mandate vacation policies. Americans, on the other hand, traditionally associate vacation time with luxury rather than necessity. Consider this, the average European...
Yeah, that's right. Over here in the Netherlands and in Europe in general, we are living a way longer as a working society. So we have built up our rights in organizations. So there are labor organizations who fight for our rights, in labor. And making sure that we get the correct pay, making sure that we have the correct working hours and vacation days. And being in a union in the United States, as far as I know, and people out there can correct me, but as far as I know, forming a union statewide or nationwide, it's something that I have never heard of. And it's even hard to form a union within one single company without getting fired instantly.
A worker receives 20 to 30 days of paid vacation per year, guaranteed by law. Meanwhile, about 1 in 4 Americans get 0 paid vacation days annually. And even those lucky enough to have vacation often...
Yeah, on average. He's talking about on average in Europe. Yeah, because Europe is not one country. We have the 50-50. Let's say 50 within the European Union. Less, of course, but in general, we have 50 countries. And each of those countries have their own laws about how much vacation time is mandatory. But yes, there is mandatory vacation time in Europe in comparison with the United States that has no mandatory vacation time by law. Only if the company actually, has this in their benefits.
don't use all of it, fearing they appear lazy or replaceable. In fact, if a European employee doesn't use their full vacation allowance, coworkers might just start worrying, is Pierre okay? He hasn't been on holiday in 2 whole months. Should we call someone? So yes, Europeans take their time off seriously, but maybe Americans have something to learn here, because the vacation gap isn't just about rest, it's a statement about how each culture defines productivity, success, and even personal value. Another massive culture shock for Americans working in Europe are lunch breaks. In America, lunch usually looks less like a relaxing meal and more like a NASCAR pit stop. Grab your sandwich, inhale it at lightning speed at your desk, and pray your boss doesn't notice you momentarily stop typing. Forget a relaxation. Lunch is practically a competitive sport, and the winner is whoever gets back to the keyboard fastest.
Okay. Sounds more or less likely. I'm not sure, but over here in Europe, when I have my lunch break, I usually have a lunch break for maybe 15 minutes, and then I'm finished with my lunch, and then I go on with whatever I was doing. Other people take a lunch break for actually a half an hour or 3/4 of an hour, of maybe an hour, depending again in which country you're living and what kind of occupation you have. It's not easy to generalize this as in Europe, as hard as it always is in America. Generalizing, it's always there, also per state, per company. So he's generalizing a lot.
Across the Atlantic, lunchtime turns into a whole different world. In many European countries, lunch isn't just encouraged, it's basically sacred. Employees genuinely step away from their desk, yes, actually leaving the office, and spend an hour or even two enjoying a full meal, socializing and genuinely recharging.
No, 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 no. He's exaggerating. No, we won't. An hour? Yes. But more than an hour? No. Because when we're getting back to our office, after an hour lunch break, we start on and then we can leave office earlier at 4 or at 5 or at 6, and then have a more larger dinner time with our family instead of 1 hour or 2 hours in between. And no, 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 not 2 hours. 1 hour, I can imagine, but two, no, not at all. It's not true what he's telling here.
Picture an American's confusion on their first day in Paris when the co-workers sleep together at noon. Wait, we're all just stopping work right now? In broad daylight? Is this a trick? Europeans understand something crucial that Americans often overlook. Breaks aren't distractions, they're productivity boosters. And research backs this up. Studies repeatedly show that workers who take genuine regular breaks perform better, think more creatively, and have lower levels of stress.
That's correct. That's true. That's even true for us in the education sector with our students. That's why we, the better teachers, change the type of the way they learn something within an hour, just to trigger these kinds of activities. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's backed up by, yeah.
Europeans have made lunch an integral part of workday precisely because it increases efficiency and job satisfaction. And yet, American culture remains resistant to this idea. For many Americans, lunch breaks feel risky, even wasteful. Managers worry that taking long breaks signals laziness, while employees fear that stepping away might harm their career progression. But here's the thing, maybe the Americans' fear of losing valuable working time at lunch is completely backward. Perhaps the US could actually learn a thing or two from Europe's relaxed yet productive lunchtime rituals. After all,
I think, my personal opinion, I think that the Americans don't do this lunch break because of the career opportunities, etc., but more about if they don't do it, they get fired. And if they do take a longer break, they get fired. And that's something that over here in Europe cannot happen. It's the fear of being fired in the United States is why a lot of people, my opinion again, is why a lot of people don't take a break, keep on working, answering emails on the phone while they're at home, etc., etc. Because if they don't, they are afraid of that their boss would say, yeah, this day or this week you weren't productive enough for me, so I fire you and I find someone else who actually is more productive and don't take such a long lunch breaks of even 10 minutes. Because here, again, workers' associations, unions, you cannot fire an employee for one day to another. And that's what's keeping the Americans from doing this, because they are not protected for exercising their right for having a lunch break. But it's part of. I believe it's a lot of states have half an hour of lunch break.
Who wouldn't want better productivity and better pastries? Speaking of Europeans' workplace rituals, next, we'll explore something else that gives Europeans cold sweats and leaves America utterly confused: the dreaded after-hours email. In America, responding to emails at 9 p.m. or even midnight isn't just normal, it's practically a badge of honor. Managers probably send emails in ungodly hours.
Selling my grandpa's batched uniform, he answered all his emails. Yeah. As in working hours and doing stuff outside working hours, it's not done. Most companies don't send emails out. Managers send over here in Europe send emails out to their co-workers or to their employees after working hours, for the same reason that he doesn't want the emails or have to answer emails during his off hours. So the manager or the boss has the same attitude towards answering emails outside the office hours as the employees have. So it has more to do with the attitude. We don't do this. Yeah. In comparison with in the United States, that every email has to get a response because time is money. And yeah, that's not the working attitude that we have over here in the Netherlands or in Europe.
Workers scramble to reply within minutes, and everyone acts like being always available is the key to success. But try pulling that stunt in Europe, and you'll encounter something that's called right to disconnect. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. In France, for example, there are literal laws protecting employees from being contacted after hours. Imagine being an American worker in Paris who innocently sends a late-night email, only to be gently confronted the next morning by a concerned French boss. Mon ami, your email last night, how you say, very intense? Are you alright? Did you take another vacation?
All right. I'm not even going to react.
My French. Meanwhile, the American employee stands there completely baffled. Wait, did I just get reprimanded for working? But Europeans see after-hours emails not as a sign of dedication, but as a sign that something went wrong during your workday. If you can't complete your task within the regular hours, Europeans assume you either have too much work or terrible time management. Not that you're impressively committed. And research backs up Europeans' perspective. Constant availability actually leads to burnout, stress, and ultimately lower productivity.
Yes, that's true. If you can bring down your working stress at the evening or in the weekends, it's really gonna affect your productivity during working hours.
In fact, European countries that enforce the right to disconnect.
Almost 20 countries have adopted the right to disconnect. France, Spain, Belgium, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Philippines, and Italy, and then some more, because that's are not 20 countries. We don't have the right to disconnect. We, over here in the Netherlands, just respect each other's evenings off and weekends off. So that if actually something is really necessary to be done, it can be done. But not on general, no.
Consistently rank among the highest in worker happiness and efficiency. Americans, on the other hand, often see after-hours communication as essential to career advancement. Disconnecting.
Again, essential to career advancement.
It feels dangerous, even risky, because in American workplaces, being unavailable could mean you're less distracted or worse, replaceable. But here's the big question. Is the US approach really making workers more productive or just pushing them closer to burnout? Speaking of productivity myths, next we'll unravel a huge one, the belief that longer hours mean better results. Alright, time to tackle a big myth. The idea that working longer hours automatically means you're more productive. In America, bragging rights often go to whoever clocked the most hours at the office. Pulling 60-hour work weeks? That's a badge of honor. Employees
Longer hours, more productive. Over here in the Netherlands, maybe. But if it's really more productive to have longer hours, then you work in a two-shift. As a company, you work with two shifts. So you have two shifts of people doing longer hours. But for one person making more hours, that's not common. Some factories, it will be done, but most of the time, especially in office and in administrative functions, no.
casually flex with statements like, yeah, I worked 12 hours yesterday, as if that amount of time glued to their desk directly measures their worth. But here's the shocking twist. Europeans typically work fewer hours, yet they're just as productive, sometimes even more. Wait, how's that possible? Is it magic, witchcraft? No, just common sense. Take Scandinavian countries like Sweden or Denmark, for example. They actively experiment with shorter work weeks and flexible schedules. The result?
Yeah. More productive, yes. But we are more productive because we share the work with more co-workers. And I guess that's something else. That's a bigger problem in the United States. Why do I hire a second man to do to share the workload with his colleague if I can manipulate that one person to do more work, need to work longer hours to do the same work? So why should I hire two if I can manipulate one person to do so? While over here in Europe, the most European countries, it will be said your workload is designated as X, and that's it. For X, you need that much of hours, and if you go over the X amount, that means that you need to have a second person to do the other part of that workload. That's, yeah.
Happier employees, higher productivity, and fewer coffee-fueled burnout sessions. Or consider Germany, famous for its strict work-hour boundaries and equally famous for outstanding productivity. There, if you're still at your desk at 5:01 p.m., your coworkers might start to worry, is Alex lost? Should someone explain how doors work? Europeans have learned something important. Productivity isn't measured by the hours you put in.
Yeah. At the moment that the cleaning lady walks into your office, you have to think, oh boy, I'm late. I have to go. It happened to me once or twice. It's not uncommon, but yeah, then you want to finish something and then you're thinking, okay, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going home. But I am, at that point, I am a single person. So, but my coworkers who had families, they had left, and I don't care because they had families. So if I went later on home, while I could finish something that I really was into at that moment, fully focused, I finish it and I say, okay, then I can put it aside, it's done, and tomorrow I have some extra spare time because I don't need to do this task tomorrow, and dive into it and get into it. So, yeah.
It's measured by the quality of what you produce. Americans, on the other hand, often equate staying late with being dedicated, even if half the time is spent pretending to look busy. Maybe, just maybe, Europeans have cracked the code. Real productivity comes from being rested and balanced, not exhausted and caffeinated. Speaking of balance, next we'll dive into something else Americans find baffling about Europe: job security and workers' rights. If there's one thing about European workplaces that completely bewilders Americans, it's the job security.
Yeah, that's true.
In America, most employees work under something called at-will employment, which basically means your boss can fire you at any moment, almost any reason. Missed deadlines? Fired. Company restructuring? Fired. Boss didn't like your tie this morning? Honestly, probably fired. Okay, maybe not the type, but you get the idea. But take a flight over to Europe, and you'll find that firing someone is practically a full-time job itself. In countries like France or Germany, employers have to document performance issues meticulously, provide training opportunities, and navigate a maze of legal paperwork before they can even think about dismissing someone. But job security in Europe goes even deeper. Workers also benefit from
Uh, he's right. A lot of European countries, you need to document a couple of years how your employee is not doing the task he is supposed to do before you can fire him. And then in between, you have some measures to suspend him for a couple of weeks for without pay or something, or with less pay. But without pay, it's not possible. But for a week without pay, or several weeks with less pay, to give a warning, as in you have to pick up the slack and do better. Otherwise, we have to fire you.
generous maternity and paternity leave, expensive sick leave, and even paid sabbaticals. To an American, taking a year of paid paternal leave might sound just like hitting the jackpot, but to Europeans, it's just a standard policy. And here's the big idea behind all these protections. Europeans believe job security fosters loyalty, boosts morale, and ultimately makes workers more productive because employees feel safe investing their time, effort, and creativity into the company. Americans, meanwhile, tend
Yeah, that's what I told earlier. Yeah. Because of the job security, you are more encouraged to do something extra for the company because you have job security. That's maternity leave. He was speaking about depends on in which country you are. Not all countries give you a 1 year paid off maternity leave. Yeah. It really depends. Over here in the Netherlands, as far as I know, you have 6 weeks before you give birth, and then another, if I'm correct, 8 weeks after you're giving birth. That's what is paid. It's all paid maternity leave, and then you can also request after giving birth and return to work. You can have some parent hours, also with less pay, of course, but again paid, so that you have half a day a week or 1 day a week extra time to um, to have to spend with your newborn child and your husband. Yeah.
to view job security as a luxury rather than a necessity, keeping workers constantly hustling out of fear they're easily replaceable. But does Europe's job security lead to complacency, or does it actually make their employees happier, healthier, and, dare we say, more productive in the long run? Speaking of
Yeah, job security is better. It's healthier, less stress. Less stress means more healthier and more productivity. And of course, when you have your days off at 5 or 6, whenever you go home, you can actually recharge the batteries and start the next day. Yeah, it all helps in feeling happier. Feeling happier means healthier and more productivity than when you're half sick, sitting at a desk, coughing with a headache, and then you're not productive at all. You need to go to a doctor. Oh, wait, you cannot.
happier employees, let's take a quick coffee break, literally, and uncover why Europeans treat coffee breaks almost as seriously as their jobs. Alright, grab your espresso, because we're diving into something Europeans treat almost as seriously as their jobs: coffee breaks. In America, coffee breaks resemble scenes from an action thriller. Grab your oversized Starbucks loaded with enough sugar to power a small town and sprint back to your desk before your boss realizes you're stopped typing. Coffee isn't a pause, it's a rocket fuel to survive the endless stream of meetings that could easily be emails. But across the Atlantic, coffee becomes an entirely different experience. Take Sweden, home to the wonderful tradition known as fika. What's fika, you ask? It's not just grabbing coffee, it's a deliberate scheduled break to sit down, chat with coworkers, eat pastries, and genuinely relax. And don't get me started on Italy, where espresso breaks are
Oh man, way out of context this, and I'm not sure if I have people from Sweden following my channel, but I don't think that this is um, put in the right perspective. Yeah, coffee breaks. We have coffee breaks, and then sometimes when it's somebody's birthday over here in the Netherlands and somebody's birthday, then there is some pastry with it, and then you congratulate your coworker, and then you go back to work. Coffee break for 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. But you don't leave the office and go somewhere else. And no, that's not true.
To practically sacred rituals, observed multiple times throughout the workday. You gather with coworkers at the local cafe, passionately debating everything from football matches to the correct way to cook pasta carbonara. Europeans treat these coffee breaks not as distraction.
That's not a coffee break. That's after working hours. This is totally wrong. This is oh so wrong. He's how you call it? What's the right word for it? He is making it more beautiful than it actually is. That's not true. It's not true.
But is a crucial team building and creativity boosting moments. Meanwhile, in America, spending 15 minutes away from your desk just to chat with colleagues might trigger alarm bells. Your manager might worry you're not busy enough, or even worse, that you're secretly enjoying yourself during work hours. The horror. Here's the bottom line. Europeans recognize that workplace happiness directly translates into better overall productivity. And maybe, just maybe, it's time Americans realize coffee breaks aren't about laziness. They're about building happier, more effective teams. If you ever experienced commuting,
yeah, okay. That's correct. That part of a coffee break is correct. When you have a coffee break and you can chat some. But over here in the times that I work in the education, when I met my coworker at the coffee machine while I was drinking tea, because I don't drink coffee, while I was drinking tea and he or she grabbed a coffee, an espresso, whatever, you could talk a bit about what's going on from the last meeting, or what's going on in the classroom of some student. We need to talk about something that happened at home. But that's for 5 or 10 minutes.
in American City, you know it can feel less like a journey to work and more like gearing up for battle, armed not with swords and shields, but podcasts, endless coffee refills, and heroic amount of patience. In American commuting usually means spending hours stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, wondering if today is the day you finally just quit your job. It's not uncommon to spend more than an hour each way every single day. Americans even bond over commute horror stories, as if surviving 2 daily hours in good luck makes them office warriors. But hop over to Europe, and commuting becomes shockingly enjoyable. Sure, Europeans still drive cars, but many casually bike through the scenic city streets. In cities like Amsterdam or Copenhagen, commuting is stressful, it's practically therapeutic. You can imagine explaining to your American coworker, wait, you bike to work intentionally, even when it's raining? Blink twice if you're being forced. European cities.
Yeah, even when it's raining, yeah. But we also drive cars to our work, but because we have a good public transportation network, and a lot of people take their bikes, and a lot of people can actually afford to live near their work, that they don't need a car to get there. That means that for the people who actually need a car to get to their job, are not driving constantly in a traffic jam. We have traffic jams. I can tell you that we have traffic jams. It's not something that is not common over here in the Netherlands or in Europe in general. We have traffic jams, but usually around what we call the rush hours. So between, let's say, 7 and 9-ish. Then there are more traffic jams. But if you go like I did last weekend, after 9 or after 10, up to around 3 or 4 p.m., you can drive anywhere in the Netherlands without hitting any traffic jam. And that's something that is in the United States more often, that during the entire day there is a traffic jam. Yeah. But yeah, we have enough alternatives, so That's
It
why.
is intentionally designed infrastructure to encourage shorter, healthier commutes, promoting cycling lanes, walkable neighborhoods, and accessible public transport. Studies have shown Europeans have significantly lower commuting stress levels, higher overall satisfaction, and unsurprisingly, better productivity at work. Meanwhile, long American commutes are linked to increased stress.
He's always connecting it with better productivity at work. It's not our goal to get a better productivity at work. Everything he says is, get a better productivity at work. It's not. It's not about getting a better productivity at work. We have a better health and a better transportation network, etc., because we care about us and our coworkers to get healthy, to stay healthy, not to get better productivity. No, we are we are a community that cares for each other.
Decreased productivity, and even lower overall health. Americans, however, have grown to accept long commutes as normal, even bragging about their commute length as a bizarre measure of professional dedication. Maybe it's time Americans ask themselves, could Europe's healthier commuting culture actually helps boost productivity, happiness, and overall quality of life? Alright, it's finally time to talk about the thing that's changed workplaces around the globe.
Remote work and future trends.
Remote work. When the pandemic forced millions to work from home, both Americans and Europeans found themselves on Zoom calls in pajamas, discovering the upsides and occasional embarrassment of remote work. But as usual, the two continents took very different lessons from the experience. In Europe, remote work quickly aligned with already strong cultural work-life balance. Countries like Finland, Germany, and Sweden didn't just tolerate working from home, they embraced it wholeheartedly. Europeans soon realized fewer commutes and more flexibility means clear boundaries and even stronger productivity.
Again, stronger productivity. Yeah, that's something that is true, and I think that in the United States it's the same. That since COVID and since this opened a lot of possibility of working from home, because a lot of apps were hastily produced and by Google and all the other big companies to jump in that gap in the market for creating remote work environments. Yeah, that's something that happened over here in Europe and in the Netherlands. There are a lot of jobs that you no longer need to be at the office every day for the entire day. There is a lot of stuff you can do remotely, which also means, and that's the difference between working in the United States, like he says, you're not away from your desk, so your boss asks, hey, what are you doing? But it's come over here in the Netherlands and a lot of European countries at your own responsibility to do the work that is asked for you to be done within the time restraints that there are. The risk is that if you do this, that A, you do not work enough, or on the other hand, you work too many hours because you don't have your own responsibility in managing your own working hours between what's right, what's good for the company, and what is healthy for your own. Yeah.
Remember the whole right to disconnect thing? Turns out it's a lot easier to enforce when your office is literally your living room. Meanwhile, Americans initially struggled, managers panicked, asking questions like, how do I know my employees are actually working if I can't physically see them? Employees felt guilty.
Yeah. I can imagine that. If you don't trust your employees, you won't have them working remotely. Yeah.
Even taking lunch breaks, afraid someone would think they were slacking off. And many ended up working even longer hours from home, confusing remote work with always working. But eventually, even America began to embrace remote and hybrid models, at least partially. Workers realized there's life beyond commuting, and many have resisted returning full-time to physical offices. Yet, all habits die hard. Many American companies are still trying to lure employees back, convinced that productivity means physical presence. Europeans might watch this American struggle with mixture amusement and horror. Wait, Americans actually miss spending 2 hours commuting every day just to eat lunch at their desk? They will learn.
Yeah. Now you no longer have to drive 2 hours to get to job. So I work more, 2 hours more, because I don't need to drive those 2 hours. If that's true, not good. Yeah, then we at Europe will take enormous. You actually do this?
Learn nothing from the pandemic. Ultimately, the future war probably lies somewhere between those two extremes. Americans might benefit from adopting Europeans' healthy boundaries and flexibility, while Europeans might find value in borrowing a bit of Americans' relentless ambition. So, will Americans ever truly embrace European chill, or Europeans secretly intrigued by the American hustle? Maybe the ideal balance is yet to be discovered. So,
yeah, we talk about a lot over here in most of the European countries that we work to live, while the general idea is that in the United States, it's talking about you live to work, and that's totally different attitude. Because over here in the Netherlands, we say if you have enough, you have enough. If you can do what you need to do, it's done. And in the United States, mostly it's said you need to buy this one, and then you can buy that one, and you can buy that one, and buy, and we need more, and that's killing. It's killing for the employee to do this. If you still need to, more, I want to have this, and I want a bigger house and a bigger car. We say, you have a house, okay. I have a car, okay. I have a bicycle, okay. It's good. I don't need a bigger car. I don't need a bigger house, because then I have to work harder, and I go work more so I can buy a bigger car or I can buy a bigger house. We're not driven by status. That's something that, as I understand, is the main motivation. The main motivation for the Americans to work hard and long, because it has to do with their ego, as in their status towards anyone else.
So, in the end of the day, who's really getting workplace culture right? Are Europeans the undisputed masters of leisure, or have Americans simply pushed the hustle culture too far? Maybe the real answer is somewhere in the middle. Europeans could probably shave a few minutes on their espresso break, just a few, let's not get crazy. And Americans might benefit from remembering what a real vacation actually feels like. But jokes aside, one thing's clear, both cultures have valuable lessons to offer. Imagine a workplace that combines European chill and work-life balance with American ambition and drive. Now, that might just be the ideal recipe for productivity and happiness. But what do you
Again, productivity. Forget about it.
think? Which style suits you better, the American hustle or European chill? Have you personally experienced workplace culture shock? Maybe you're the European still bewildered by American burnout, or the American who finally embraced the European coffee breaks. Drop your wildest work culture.
Yeah. A lot of out of context examples from Europe, grabbed from all over Europe, that are not the same. We have other rules over here in the Netherlands than they have in Italy or in Greece or in Romania. It's all different. So it's not good to generalize this for entire Europe. As the same as it is, you cannot generalize it for the entire United States, which are also 50 states with 50 own rules within the states, etc., etc. So it's hard to say this, but a lot of things that he told about Europe and Europeans and how our work culture is, as it's called work-life balance, it's out of context, and I cannot comment how it actually is in the United States, because I do not live in the United States. I only can reflect on things that I've seen in other videos and how expats talk about their work-life balance in the United States. So let me know in the comments what you think about it, how much is actually true or not true, and while you're down there, then press the like button. If you want to see more of my videos, then this is a good place to start with. And otherwise, it would really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button for this so we can get up to our first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.